everybody, and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. This is the Rating show after the 2-1 home victory over Brighton. I'm doing this Tuesday morning. I like to try and get it done the day after the game. I was a little bit busy yesterday. I do have to re-watch the game. I didn't have time to re-watch it in its entirety yesterday. I watched about an hour of it yesterday, and I've watched half an hour of it today. I have to watch it again before I do the rating show, because as I always say, when you're watching your team, you're sometimes a little bit frustrated if it's not going well. You just want everything to go well, and things that go badly get blown up out of all proportion in your own mind when you're watching the game. And alternatively, if it goes well as well, I'm pretty sure sometimes if you win a game, you actually think your team might have played better than they actually played as well. In this case, obviously, we're not saying that we did win the game, but most fans were disappointed with the match. Having watched it again, I do think we played a little, not all the time, but in little spells, we did play some decent football. But I suppose that's the least you can expect. But I just don't think the performance, certainly for me, it wasn't quite as bad watching it a second time around as it was watching it the first time, when you're frustrated and you're wanting everything to go well. So I've got the ratings in front of me from the Manchester Evening News. Dean Henderson, they've said new status and new nerves, made some good stops but flapped at corners, and Brighton seems to target him calmer in the second half, they've said. He did drop one, didn't he, from a corner. I noticed I think it hit Maguire on the back, and he managed to grab it again. I do think he did look like he was under pressure a little bit from corners. But again, are you thinking that because he did drop one, are you just fearful that he's going to drop another one? And they did have a lot of players around him. It was a difficult situation at times, but I do think he only made the one mistake. They've given him a 6. And I think a 6 is okay. 6 is decent to above average. I would say that's fair enough. A 6 for Dean Henderson. Wan-Bissaka, they've only given a 5 to. Talking of targeting, Brighton scored against United again by delivering towards the far post, where Danny Wellbeck caught Wan-Bissaka napping. I'm not too sure about that. Sometimes I think pundits, you just want to look at your own team and say, what, maybe it is the way to do it, I suppose, but what could your team do better? But is it not also fair to sometimes give the opposition credit and just say there's not a lot we could have done about that? I think it's a brilliant piece of movement by Danny Wellbeck in the box. He looks as though he's going to run past Wan-Bissaka, then he checks back, he comes back behind him. So you've got to watch the ball. So Wan-Bissaka's watching the ball, and then Welbeck's got the run on him because he's dropped off a yard and then attacks it. He's got the run on Wan-Bissaka. There's nothing he can do to stop him from running past him. And it's just a brilliant piece of play by Danny Welbeck. And I think it's a little bit harsh on this occasion, criticising Wan-Bissaka for not winning that header. You can't win every header. Of course, it'd be great if you could, but you can't win every header. You really can't. And I think a 5 is a little bit harsh. I'd like to point out also that in the second half, Wan-Bissaka put over a very, very similar cross to that. Very similar. Just outside the 6-yard box. It beats the front man. It's the good height there for somebody to attack it. None of our strikers are attacking it like Danny Welbeck attacked it. And the ball just gets cleared comfortably. So Wan-Bissaka, they've given him a 5. I think a 6, at least a decent game, Wan-Bissaka, so a 6 for me. Lindelof, they've given a 5 too. That surprises me. On the topic of napping, Lindelof was unaware of Welbeck when he met the cross to eventually score. Exposed for Welbeck's non-penalty incident, they've given him a 5. I thought Victor Lindelof had a perfectly decent game, and we've had this before. This was mentioned, a very similar thing to this was mentioned when we went out of the Europa League in the semi-final, where the ball was crossed across the front man at the near post. How many times do you see, every time you watch a game of football, you see the ball getting crossed in, it's too low, and the man at the near post clears it? One of your centre-backs is always, but virtually always, 90% of crosses that come into the box, one of your centre-backs positions himself level with the near post or slightly ahead of the near post to try to prevent the cross from coming in. When a good cross comes in and it goes over you, there's nothing you can do about it. You've made that decision. You're the man who's going to be at the near post. And you often hear commentators say, you probably hear it every time you watch a game, oh, great positioning by Maguire or by Lindelof or whoever it might be if you're watching another team. Great positioning by, I don't know, Laporte. They're at the near post, the ball comes in too low, it's not a great cross, and they head it away. Sometimes they can even block it with the body. Sometimes it comes in so low, they even kick it away. And the commentators often say great positioning, great defending. All they're doing is to get into the near post to try to prevent the ball coming into the 6-yard box. And when a good ball comes in that goes over your head, there's nothing you can do about it whatsoever. So to criticise Lindelof for that goal and for Wellbeck getting on the end of it is out of order in my opinion. And to give him a 5 is bang out of order. I thought Lindelof was one of our better performers on the day. In fact, if this isn't world class or anything, I'm just saying he had a good game. He played well. That's all I'm saying. Lindelof played well for me, and I'm giving Victor Lindelof a 7, and they've given him a 5. And I thought he was one of our better performers on the day. Harry Maguire tried to rouse his teammates and made a key block at 1-0 before half-time. Maybe fortunate to get away with a challenge on Wellbeck, but did it cutely. It was touch and go. I think on another day at VAR, man might have given a penalty, but I think it was just about the right decision. But they've given Harry Maguire a 6. I'll agree with the 6 for Harry Maguire. Bear in mind that they've given Victor a 5. I thought Victor played better than Harry. A couple of Harry's passes. There was one pass where he was in their half and he just went out for a goal kick. It wasn't aimed at anybody. I remember a pass in the first half that went into the crowd, virtually into the stand. I thought Victor Lindelof played better than Harry Maguire on Sunday. I was about to say yesterday, then it's usually the day before. But I thought Victor Lindelof played better. And for me, Victor gets a 7. And I will agree with the 6 that they've given to Harry, which is just decent. I thought Harry had a decent game, whereas I think Victor Lindelof played well. Luke Shaw, I can't believe this one. So poor in the first half. His manager was on his case. More of a threat after the pause. More of a threat. They're talking about him. Look, he still is a fullback. I know we've got to get forward, and I know we've got to threaten, and I know we want to break him down. But they're talking about him as if he's a centre forward or something. More of a threat. What about his passing and his defending and his tackling and his covering and his recovery rate? What about all those things? More of a threat after the pause, and played a key role in the winning goal, which he did. They've given him a 6. I'm going to give him an 8. I think he played very well. But I've got to say this, because this is something I've spoken about before. When you're doing this, and I haven't got a definitive answer to this. Are you talking about when you're marking a player, if you're going to say, for example, that a player had an average game, is that an average game compared to his own standards? Or is it an average game because, what's an average? Like you've got 11 players in the team. If 4 players played better than you and 4 players played worse than you and 3 of you about the same, those 3 players in the middle, you are the average players, aren't you? You're better than some and not as good as others. So are you comparing yourself to your other teammates and saying he was average? Or are you comparing yourself to your own performances? Because Luke Shaw, having watched it again, on the United Stand fan cam with Flex, I gave Luke Shaw my man of the match. And there was a few people in the comments saying, Luke Shaw, man of the match. Surely not. I've rewatched it again. He was comfortably our best player. He hardly put a foot wrong. He was comfortably United's best player. Now, I'm going to do a player in focus actually, and I'm going to do Luke Shaw. On the night when I said that to Flex said, what did he do? You're just looking for 1 or 2 instances to be able to say, wow, that was fantastic. That's not how to do it. It's not how to do it. It's how you play consistently through the game. My response to Flex, I think Flex on the night said to me, Bruno made the first goal, and he also put a great ball to Pogba for the goal that, the ball that led to the goal, the winning goal, which he did. Two lovely pieces of play. That's fine. That's two lovely pieces of play. He said to me, "How many good things did Luke Shaw do?" I said, "At least 15. At least 15. They can't just all lead to goals. They can't just all lead to goals. So it's just Luke Shaw hardly put a foot wrong. If we had more players hardly putting a foot wrong, we'd be winning 4-5 and 6-0. That's how City play. Most of the players hardly put a foot wrong. They make good decisions and they pass the ball to each other. So we need players hardly putting a foot wrong. And Luke Shaw hardly put a foot wrong. Back to the markings. If I was going to mark Luke Shaw's playing like that every week. Here's the problem with the markings. If you're comparing him to himself, how he normally plays, I would say he just played decent, like he always played, at least decent or above average, decent to above average. That's 6. That is how he played by his own standards. But he was easily the best player for United, so that's not fair, is it? Surely I've got to say, well, he was United's best player. I thought he played well, and I think 8 is very good. I'll just go with a 7. I could have said 8, very good, but I'll go with well. That's between the two. He played well enough, certainly. So I've actually said an 8 there, but I'm going to change it to a 7. So I've got Lindelof on a 7 and Luke Shaw on a 7 at the minute. But I would say Luke Shaw was definitely the better of the two. Now then, Fred. Interesting one, Fred. After the game against Leicester last week, where I said I don't think I've ever seen a worse player play for United in midfield, having watched it again, I didn't give Fred credit for this watching it live, but having watched it again, he actually played better than I can remember him playing. He's had his worst game and then probably his best game. Look, Fred's better in games like when we're playing City and it's all about work rate, winning the ball back, getting tackles in, putting fires out all over the field. But in a game where we've got plenty of the ball, his passing was better than it normally is. It really was. So I was pretty impressed by Fred, having watched it again. By his own standards, I'm not going to do it like this, but by his own standards, he was outstanding, which would be a 9, but that's by his own standards. I think compared to the rest of the players, I would say he was certainly at least decent to above average. They've given him a 7. I can't give him the same mark as Luke Shaw, although he did play well by his own standards. I would say a 6. A 6 for Fred, which is decent, above average. And that's how he played. Certainly played fine, or a decent game, I should say. Paul Pogba struggled to get going on his first Premier League start in nearly 2 months and played Fred into trouble for Brighton's opener. Unwittingly assisted Mason Greenwood. They've given him a 6. I'm giving Paul a 5. Paul was average at best when compared to his teammates, and was certainly average by his own standards at best, at very best. So I'm giving Paul a 5. Far too many sloppy passes, trying to, a few long balls, too many. Gave the ball very poor. It wasn't even a difficult pass when he gave the ball away that led to the goal. I know I don't pick on one moment, but I know I'm mentioning that one, but it's amongst plenty of balls that were pretty, a loose touch. He also took that just bounced off him for no reason, went straight to one of their players. I thought Paul was average at best, I would say. So a 5 for me. Mason Greenwood, they've given a 7 to. First right-footed shot smacked the post. Greenwood persisted, and his manager will have loved the scruffy manner of his winner. He probably will have done. They've given him a 7, which is, again, I'm not saying Mason played as well as Lindelof or Shaw. I would say a 6. Just decent, had a decent game, Mason, for me, rather than a particularly good game. Bruno Fernandes, they've said he has looked out of sorts for a while, and the first half against Brighton might have been the nadir. Still tallied his 14th assist of the season. 6 out of 10. I'm giving him a 5, which is average. Bruno had an average game. There's a few things I want to mention about Bruno. Like I say, 1 or 2 little things doesn't mean you've had a good game, doesn't mean you've had a bad game. I'm not saying he was bad, because he did plenty of good things as well. But some of the poor things that he does, they've got to be cut out, and I'm going to mention a couple of things. I also want to mention some of the things that the commentators said about him. Not that they mean a lot, but they are interesting to listen to. I think they are anyway. But there was one instance in the first half where Bruno tried a cross into the box from, when I say a cross, he does this too often to me. He tries the straight ball into the box. When you're playing a straight ball into the box that's high for people to probably challenge for in the air, that's what you expect from the wing, because then you can head it towards the goal. But when it's going straight into the box, they're too easy for the keeper to come and take. And if you overhit it, they're going out. And he tried one of those in the... So is it a cross or a pass? It's probably a pass. It's a high pass rather than a cross. But it must have gone 6 yards over the bar, and there's no need for it to be so poor. That was one thing that I didn't like in the first half. But there was another one. The next three things that I'm going to mention are all things where the commentator said something. And two of the things that the commentator's saying are beginning to make me laugh, to be honest. In the first half, he's got the ball in the inside right channel, 15 yards outside the box. Cavani's making a run through the centre forward channel, and Bruno tries to play it into him. It's not really a difficult pass. It might have been slightly difficult to get the weight dead right, to get it just in front of him into his path, but it's got to go towards him, and it went 10 yards away from him and straight through to the keeper. It was a fairly simple pass, and he misses it badly, and it went to the keeper. And the commentator said that's not like Bruno Fernandes, and I thought, I hear you say that every week. He says that. When's he going to stop saying it? The same commentator it is on BT. Every single time he plays, I hear him say it. That's not like Bruno. When is the commentator going to realise that he keeps saying that's not like Bruno Fernandes? So I'm not sure whether this is the first time that I've heard this twice in a game, but I certainly heard it twice in a game yesterday. In the second half, he gets the ball inside left channel, left half really, because he's inside his own half. So he's in his own half, sort of old-fashioned left half position. Ball bounces, he turns. When he turns, he just whacks it without looking towards the left. I think he's hoping Shaw or Rashford's there. I think Rashford was still on. But it doesn't go anywhere near anybody, and it goes out for a throw into the Brighton. And the commentator says, oh, that's not like Bruno Fernandes. Well, first of all, you say it every week, and yesterday you'd already said it once in the very same game. It is like Bruno Fernandes. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I know he does a lot of good things, but it's these really poor things that need cutting out. And the fourth thing that I want to mention, and the third thing that I'm going to speak about the commentators on as well. There was a ball in the second half that Luke Shaw played to Bruno, where Bruno was about 6 yards perhaps outside the penalty area, in an inside left position with his back to goal. Luke Shaw's passed the ball to him and then continued his run. Luke Shaw has passed that ball to Bruno for Bruno to take control of it. If you take control of it, defenders around you can panic. He's only 5 or 6. You could end up getting a free kick outside the box. They do plough into you when you get hold of it. He has got time and space to get hold of it, but there are players a couple of yards, 3 yards behind him. If you get hold of that ball there, often you will get fouled and you will get a free kick. Or if they don't foul you or get a free kick, you're in a great position. You've got the ball at your feet. You can pass it, and United within, they're not just in the last third, they're right in the last third, just outside the penalty area. On that instance, Luke Shaw's about to run past him. He could try and do that. He could turn the other way and try and pass it. So you're in a dangerous situation if you get the ball under control. And what does he do? He steps over it and lets it go under him, and it runs through, and it's an easy clearance for the defender. It's one of my pet hates. I've seen Bruno do it dozens of times. I've literally seen him do it dozens of times. The ball comes to him just outside the penalty area, and he thinks it's clever to step over it, let it go. It looks good. I don't know if that's what he thinks. I assume he thinks that, because it never comes to anything. One day it probably will. But if you're going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, one day you probably will get a goal from it. So when that does work, and when somebody is switched on and it does go to one of our players and we do get a goal, it might be the 100th time that he's tried it. And the commentators, when it does work, will say, what a genius piece of play, what a brilliant step over by Bruno. That's what they will say when it happens. It might be the 100th time that he's tried it. If you just get hold of it instead and pass it, we might have got 5, 6 or 8 goals out of those 100 occasions where you've stepped over it and it's just run through to one of their defenders or through to the keeper. This is what I'm going to say about the commentary on this one. Steve McManaman started slating Edison Cavani. Edison Cavani is about 6 or 7 yards to the well, as you look at it, it's to the right. So, you know, from their defensive sort of position is to the left. So as Cavani's looking at the ball, Cavani can see the ball, he can see Luke Shaw, and he can see Luke Shaw passing it to Bruno. But he's not directly in line with Bruno, nothing like it. He's 6 or 8 yards off the line of the ball. So Steve McManaman starts saying, first of all, the commentator said that they're not on the same wavelength as the two players. And then Steve McManaman starts laying into Cavani, saying, and there's millions of people perhaps, but certainly hundreds of thousands of people listening to this, isn't there? And, you know, they've said he's not on the same wavelength as Bruno. And Steve McManaman starts saying, you know, it's really poor, it's dead easy, he should be onto that ball. Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. The only way you can expect your player to step over that ball and to be on your toes is if it's something that you're working on. I mean, we don't know that they're not working on that. But Bruno needs to understand. Bruno needs to understand that he needs to see that you have to have a quick look over your shoulder. You have to see that the player's somewhere near. If he's not somewhere near on line with you, he's got no chance of reacting quickly enough and getting the ball. And for the commentator to say that they're not on the same wavelength is as if to say that it's as if to say that the player who's receiving the ball has got as much to do with it as the player who steps over it. That's rubbish. It's the player who's stepping over it who's mostly to blame, not the player who's not already running to where the ball's going to go if you step over it. The only way you can expect, think about it. If Cavani's going to expect you to step over it and start chasing to where the ball's going to go, if you step over it and leave it, the only way he can do that is if he expects you to step over it and leave it every time. Because if he starts running into that position every time, he's going to be running into an offside position when the player who receives the ball controls the ball. Then you've got to move back out and get into a different position again. And you just can't expect your striker. Well, think about it. How often does it come off? How often does a player step over the ball that's coming forward towards you? Don't get me wrong here. Don't misread this. When the ball's flashed across the box and you see players let it go, Van der Beek did it the other week. I think we got a goal from it, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Van der Beek did it at Leicester. When the ball's coming across the box and you're letting the ball run into the box and there's people coming onto it, people are coming into the box. They are running into the box. I'm talking here where you're standing with your back to goal and the ball's being played forward, not across, the ball's being played forward. So when it's being played forward, you've got to get hold of it. You've got to get hold of it. No point letting it run through because your teammates have got to chase it, and they're not running onto it. They're chasing the ball that's running through, and the chances of it coming off are pretty negligible. So it's not really a misunderstanding. It's a poor piece of play by one particular player, and it's not really a misunderstanding. And it gets me goat. It really does. We need to stop stepping over the ball when it's played. Our best player with his back to goal is Anthony Marshall. He will rarely step over that ball. When it's played towards him, towards the end of the edge of the box, he gets hold of it. Make yourself strong, get hold of it, let them hit you in the back, get a free kick, or pass it off if they don't hit you in the back. So Bruno needs to improve on that, and it's one of my pet hates. I've seen plenty of players over the years who do it too often. Marcus Rashford, where was with the mark? So they've given Bruno a 6, I've given Bruno a 5, which is average. He had an average game, both by his own standards and by the standards of the rest of the team. Marcus Rashford, if there was sufficient competition, then Rashford would be droppable. Disobeyed instructions at times. I wonder how they hear these things. He must be sat near the bench, he must be in there. Disobeyed instructions at times, but eventually turned up with the equaliser, came off with an injury. They've given him a 5, which is an average game. I wouldn't disagree with that, a 5. For Marcus, he's fine. He took his goal really well, by the way, but as I say, one particular good thing in a game doesn't impress me too much. Edison Cavani looked like someone who had started in one of the previous 10 games and does not particularly look like he is keen to stay. I think it's a bit harsh levelling that at somebody. 3 is very poor. They've given him a 3. I think that's harsh. I'll say he definitely did have a poor game. I would say a 4 though, rather than very poor. I mentioned this on the United Stand show on the Monday night. When Martial was playing at number 9 for us, lots and thousands of people out there saying he's not scoring enough goals, he's not, his movement's not good enough, he's not trying hard, all different things being levelled at him. And then Cavani came, it first started all this when he came on as a sub. I think he came on as a sub and scored twice, didn't he, at Southampton? And it went on for weeks, if not months. Cavani's the man. He might not, maybe he's only here for a year or 2, but he's the man, he's the number 9. Martial can learn. You heard pundits saying it. Because the pundits were saying, you're hearing thousands of fans saying it. Cavani's the man. Mason can learn from him. Marcus, Anthony Martial, they can all learn from him. Look at his movement in the box. Look how sharp he is. Now he's getting more games and his goal scoring's dried up. A lot more people are on his back. And the people who are saying, no, nobody's saying now, the other lads can be learning from him. It's crazy how it goes. A couple of goals and you rocket, you kudos, if you like. He's absolutely rocketed, and the way that you thought of by the fans, and he's already starting to get stick. And like this, this evening news writer, it doesn't even look like he's keen to stay. How can you take that from watching him? He does work hard, Cavani, so that's out of order. It was his challenge for a loose ball that led to the ball bouncing loose to Bruno, that led to Marcus Rashford's goal. It's one little thing, I know that. It's only, but I'm not saying he played great. He was pretty poor on the ball. He was pretty poor, but his work rate's fine. So if his work rate's fine, I think it's harsh to say it doesn't look like he's keen to stay. That's out of order to me. That is out of order. He's working perfectly fine. It's just that there's not lots of chances. There's not lots of decent balls into the box, and it's a bit of a, it's a bit of a nightmare really at the minute playing as a number 9 for United. I felt a little bit for Cavani when no sooner had he gone off, there's a bobbling ball in the box that comes to Mason, and Mason heads it towards a goal. And this happens for strikers. Trust me, Cavani will be looking at that and thinking, why didn't that ball come into the box while I was there? So that's just how it happens. It's just a good luck for Mason, and it's bad luck for Edison Cavani. If Edison Cavani would have still been on and would have scored that goal himself, there'd probably be people saying after the game, that's what Mason needs to be doing. That's what Anthony needs to be doing. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. So I'm going to do, just to show that it doesn't have to be spectacular things, but there's lots and lots of really good play by Luke Shaw. So I'm going to do a player in focus. What did I mark him in the end? I think I only marked him a 7 in the end, which is good. He did play well. I did give him man of the match. So I'm going to do Luke Shaw as a player in focus. I'll have that up tomorrow afternoon sometime. That'll be Wednesday afternoon. Looking forward to the Thursday game. I'll have a bash tomorrow at naming the lineup for the Thursday night game as well. So that's that for today. I hope you've enjoyed that show. If you've enjoyed that show, please subscribe. Please tell all your friends. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anybody. Keep stum.